Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Lonely Artist podcast. I'm your host, Ariane, and today I have a wonderful guest and friend. Sam Hayes is a writer and illustrator from Chicago, Illinois. He is currently creating a webcomic titled Inheritance, which you can read on Webtoon Canvas or on his website. I am really excited because this is the second interview that I conduct with a dear friend who I talk to on the weekly basis. I'm like the luckiest person alive. And thank you so much for giving me the time to just basically interview you and question you about everything.
I'm ready to be grilled.
Are you ready to be the star of the show? That's what you
Yeah.
should be ready for.
Hell yeah.
Awesome. Well, we can start at the beginning, at the very, very beginning. Tell us about your art journey and how that happened.
Does everyone else talk about like how they started in childhood? Is
Yes.
that because like good because I was like this started so long ago, but I was the type of kid that liked to play pretend a lot, and I would force all the other children around me to also play pretend with me. Um, which eventually naturally went into me wanting to be like, oh, well, I gotta write this shit down. Right, this is so good, I gotta write it down. So then I started writing stories. And then that naturally developed into like, oh, these need illustrations, obviously. So I was, like, for as long as I can remember, I was that kid. Like, I was drawing, writing, and also putting on. We never performed for adults because I was like, you guys don't get it. You don't understand.
You
But
knew your
like
audience.
playing, yeah, I knew my audience was other kids back
Yeah.
then. So yeah, that I've always been like that. But in particular, there was this one in the third grade. I had this teacher who I did not understand her sarcasm or anything at all. So I constantly misunderstood her. And one time, it was something for our moms. We had to like draw a portrait of our mothers, and this was the turning point for me. This was where I was like, I'm gonna be the best at art. Uh, I had to draw a picture of my mom, and I thought it was amazing. And she looked at it and she said, "Wow, your mother's gonna cry when she sees this." And
Wow.
I thought she was insulting me.
Oh, really?
And yes, for a very long time. And then I looked back and I was like, oh, she meant it was beautiful. But in my child brain, I was like, I'll show her. I'm gonna be the best. Like so, my drawing, I like really started practicing after that, like really hard, because I was like, oh, I'll show Mrs. G. I'm gonna be the best artist. But what she meant was that I was already a good one.
Your entire
So
art
yeah,
career is based on you like being upset at misunderstanding your teacher's comment.
it's like a villain origin story.
Exactly.
Like, oops.
I love it. And you know what?
Yeah.
Somehow I'm not surprised at all that you put out, that you made the plays and that you organized everybody and forced them to do the things. Like,
I was a highly organized. I still am like this. I was a very highly organized individual. So I would remember what we pretended the day before
oh
and be
my
like, we were
God.
picking up where we left off. And they were like, oh my God, this guy is insane.
You must have
But
been a blast to play with.
I think so. I mean, my sister was, I mean, I played this with my brothers and sisters, but I had separate games
Hmm.
for them, obviously, because like we were not all interested in the same thing.
Yeah.
But I mean, they thought I was a blast to play with. Bossy, yes, but
Yes. It comes with the territory. What can you do, you know?
yeah,
How are things gonna get done if you're not being bossy?
I have an itinerary for our play today.
There's an agenda for this. You can follow
Yeah,
it. And
exactly.
well, I mean, like I said, I'm not surprised. But one thing is having ideas and coming up with stories and like wanting to make drawings for them. But there are so many other ways you can do that, like through illustration or
Yeah.
storyboarding. So how in particular did you decide, well, I'm gonna go into the world of comics and more specifically the world of webcomics?
This one is a really goofy origin story, actually, that I've basically only told our mutual friend Emily about this, kind of.
I'm excited.
So I did attempt comics, I will say, as a teenager, like we all do, I feel like anybody who likes comics, because I was seeing a lot of really cool web comics all of a sudden crop up. I was a teenager from 2003 to 2009, for those of you who are much younger, which means that that was the dawn of web comics, basically, was that time period, because that's when the web was finally becoming accessible enough for people to make their own websites, and those people obviously naturally started to put their work on their websites, and webcomics were part of that. So I was like watching this stuff come up and I was like, oh yeah, this is sick. And then I had some very cool teachers who were like, oh, Sam, you like drawing, so why don't you check out these graphic novels? So I actually did not read manga, and I did not read serialized superhero comics at all. I read all graphic novels, which was right up my alley because I wanted extended storytelling. So when I was like 16, I tried to make a graphic novel from scratch for my best friend with one of those bound, like really nice canvas sketchbooks. And I was
Oh,
just going
wow.
to draw it straight out. Like I was like,
Wow.
I'm going to make up the story as I go. And after that attempt, I abandoned it for 10 years because I was like, this was too hard. I didn't start small, I started huge.
Yeah.
Um, so history repeats itself. So I did the same thing recently. I was like, I am going to attempt webcomics again. And I'm not going to attempt something small. I'm going to attempt a full-length webcomic with multiple story arcs, etc. And that's what I'm in the middle of right now. So, but this time it's going way better. Like way, way, way better.
I can
But
attest to
yeah,
that. I am seeing your hard work every single day. And I love that you're an all or nothing kind of person. You're like, I'm not
yeah, I
making a
just
small like webcomic series. This is gonna be like a
no.
long ass one.
I'm like that in other like this is like a personality thing. I think is just like that's my personality type is when I decide to do something I full ass it instead of dipping. I'm not really a toe dipper. So
Yeah.
like when like I decided to go to school for performance, right? Like I thought I was going to be an actor, and when I realized that it was not my thing, I quit full stop. I'm not going to be an actor anymore, and I like have a whole degree. My degree is in performance. I don't know why, like, a lot of people would be like, oh, I have to integrate it somehow. And I was like, no, I don't feel like it, so I'm not going to,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, but I feel like even though you say you're not integrating it, somehow when you create comics, I feel like you put so much
Oh,
of that acting in your characters, right? In
that's
their
true. Yeah.
expressions, everything. Well, this leads us to another question that I've been meaning to ask, but I haven't because I was saving it for the podcast. But
Whoa.
how exactly did you come up with Inheritance? Like, where was that born? How did that idea come to be?
So I I'm a writer and I actually like that most. I even like that more than drawing, which I know is kind of crazy
Oh
sounding,
my
but I
God.
do. What? So in 2016, I decided to attempt National Novel Writing Month for the first time and last time, actually, because I had just quit a job in wealth finance, which sucked, and I was waiting to start a new job at another place, and it doesn't matter. I had a month. Did that happen to be November, where I could do whatever the fuck I wanted, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do National Novel Writing Month, NaNoWriMo,
Yeah.
or NaNoWriMo if you're a weirdo. I actually don't know how to pronounce it, so
I
don't
always
hold me
call
to
it
that.
NaNoWriMo, actually.
Yeah, I think most people do, and I like flip flop between the two. But I actually did, I won, I got to 50,000 words, right? Like by the end of the
Hmm.
month, and which felt awesome. But the manuscript that I wrote featured these two characters that I really liked. One was, and it was fantasy. The genre was like high fantasy. It was about like fairy courts, like Unseelie and Seelie courts, and it was about how those fairies interacted with the humans nearby. And so it was like a star-crossed lovers thing, which is a theme in a lot of my works because I really like it. Romeo and
Hopeless
Juliet,
romantic.
except homos instead. It's always two men.
Yes.
So Those two characters, I really ended up liking their archetypes. One of them was like really stoic but kind and really intelligent and like this big huge knight guy. And then the other one was a prince, and he was kind of chaotic but like really like heart of gold and like really funny. And I really liked the way that those two archetypes worked with each other. But I wasn't like sold on them in this world. So I was like, okay, well, let's plunk these two guys out and put them. The next thing I did was I plunked them into a sci-fi,
You
a
did?
space opera.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, there's a space opera too.
Oh my
So
God, I love
that
it.
one was set on a terraformed Mars. And the chaotic character, the one that's a prince, ended up being like an heir to like a corporation, so a trillionaire at the because like we're hundreds of years in the future, so
Yeah.
we're in the trillionaire category now. So he, again, star-crossed lovers, like the other guy, the stoic, like calm guy, is like part of the rebellion, like against the capitalists, and then this other guy is like renouncing his inheritance to this basically a throne, but it's like to all this money.
Yeah.
And again, I was like, this is cool. Like this world building is cool, but it doesn't quite fit. And so I was like, what if I just made it normal? And I have never ever written anything set in modern day with like characters that are based in reality, like at all. Like my the things that I like to write are like about knights and dragons or about pew pew lasers, like and shit.
I can see
And
your
that's what
influence with like Lord of the Rings and Star Wars.
yeah, those are like the two. Yeah,
Like you oscillate between those.
yeah. I love both of those IPs. I love them. I don't like new Star Wars, but I do love the original trilogy. I watched the shit out of it as a kid, and I love Star Trek too. I'm actually a Trekkie. So yeah, so I was like, I've never written anything like this. What if I fail? But they fit in that world way better than any of the other ones, and it made more sense. So that's where it came. I just like kept retooling. I kept bashing myself against the brick wall until I broke through.
Wow.
So and now here we are. Oh my God. So I actually started in 2016, but they kept getting reworked for years.
It's funny how something like setting them in a normal environment, in a normal, quote unquote, like contemporary timeline, seems so much harder than something that's completely made up, right? Because people
Yeah.
will relate to it way more in some aspects and will probably police you on some other things a lot more.
Yes, and that is actually something that like is the scariest thing for me is because, I'm obviously a white man. So like and both not well, River is the one of two protagonists, and he is half white and half Japanese. Liu Chen, his mother is from Okinawa, and I did that because I wanted to firmly set at least one of my characters in a place that I understood. I can write him from my own standpoint. But there's a lot of, white writers out there that don't do their research. They don't listen when they fuck up, and they don't apologize when they fuck up. They double down instead of like listening and there's people who are going to not want to give you grace for fucking up, and that's okay. That's for them to decide. But there are going to be plenty of people who are like, "Oh, okay. Well, do better next time." And I'll be like, "Yeah, I will."
Yeah,
You
they'll
know what I
probably
mean?
appreciate you way more for listening to the feedback.
But I think that's a lot of like emotional intelligence that a lot of people struggle with. Not even just with racism. I think it's with everything. Like we struggle to, a lot of us really struggle to admit when we're wrong or have fucked up and
Yeah.
apologize gracefully. So
It's probably like the root of so many issues that we're dealing with.
yeah,
So I
yeah,
completely feel you on that.
yeah,
It's a whole thing, and I'm sure we could talk about it for hours because we both have
yeah,
really strong opinions on the matter,
absolutely.
and I love it. But going back to comics,
Yeah,
so
sorry.
we don't like go too far because I will go far with you, and then this will be like a 3-hour podcast.
I know.
And then people will be like 1 hour in. Wasn't this supposed to be about a comic?
What are they talking about?
What happened here? Tell me, what is your favorite thing about making comics?
Wow. There's a lot. What did I write down on my little piece of paper? Oh, I chose one thing to talk about because there's a lot of things I love about comics. But my favorite thing about it is that it is different from all the other storytelling mediums. It isn't writing, but it kind of is at the same time. And it isn't movies or plays where there's like, because those are firmly set over time. But books and graphic novels and web comics, whatever, all still have a time aspect, but it's completely reader driven up to a point. Like you can stop reading at any time, or you can reread passages as many times as you want. They can control the pacing up to a point. We, as the writers and creators of a comic, can try to mess with their sense of time by like stretching out panels or putting lots of things together. Like we can try to, inspire them to think of the way that we're like showing time to them in a certain way. But ultimately, it's up to them.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. I mean, I'm sure
I think it's awesome.
you've experienced it as a reader of graphic novels as well, where you like to kind of land on a page and look at the stuff and go back and then keep moving forward.
I'm actually an idiot and I read so fast that I actually have to like tell myself to slow down because I'll just be like,
Yeah.
and that's actually sickening to think about that there are other people who are doing that with my art.
Well,
'Cause
I
I'm like,
do
I
that.
spent hours.
I do that, but what I try to do is I'll like just get it out of the way, like just read everything as fast as possible and like binge it. And then I'll be like, okay, I've binged this. I'm at peace. And then I go back.
Yes.
And then I'm like, okay, now I'm gonna appreciate this, like the hard work of it. And I do that sometimes. It helps to not feel so bad at, binging stuff.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I'll like go back and read like chapters. Like I'll be like, okay, well, understand story now, so now I'm gonna go back and like appreciate all the hard work
Yeah.
that this person put into their art. God, I
It's
just
so
like to
hard.
devour it.
It's so hard not to, but then you're the creator and you know that people are doing that to your work and you're like, no, I gotta appreciate somebody else's work too.
It's
So
like equal parts freeing and horrifying because like then I'm like, they're not looking at my mistakes. They don't even see the mistake that I
yeah.
made in the architecture in the background, so why should I sweat about it? But they will know when a character's face looks wonky, you know?
Yes. And there's always that
So,
one person who will notice something.
I know. I noticed that one of Rose tattoos is like slightly off. That's gonna be my nightmare. Is they're gonna be like,
Oh
he's
God.
missing this one, and I'll be like, I don't care because I'm not going back and fixing
Yeah. I mean, you really did a number on yourself with like giving him tattoos. I'm like,
it. That many as well, yeah.
yes.
I just
But
think they're hot.
it can be winter all the time in your comic, so he can be covered.
It is a very cold country that they're in, so
Yes. So you don't have to worry
just
too
bundle them
much.
up.
Just for like really
Yeah,
specific scenes.
yeah, exactly.
And what is your least favorite thing about making comics? Like, it can be part of the process that you don't like, or just in general, something that you don't necessarily love about comics, making comics.
I think the thing that I continually am frustrated with is just how much time it takes. And I'm sure everybody says that. I'm right there with them. It is such torture because I have this all written. Like I know what's going to happen. So I'm not also not like waiting like to ooh, I wonder how this is going to turn out. I know, and I'm really excited, especially like for instance, Inheritance is only on episode 18 or something like that. I haven't even gotten to the first hook
Yeah.
of, well, I guess I have, like the mini hook where they're like, oh, those two guys think each other are hot. Like I've not gotten to any of the cool stuff yet.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh my God.
and it's taken me a year and a half almost to get to this point, and I'm not even like at the point where people would be hooked.
Yeah.
Like that's the part that's so frustrating where I'm like, oh man, once I get over this hump, I'm hoping people will be like, wow, this is sick. But like I've not even gotten to the sick parts
Yeah.
yet.
And
That's what's frustrating.
there's no way to like delegate the work. I mean, I guess you could if you paid somebody to do
And pay
things
someone.
like flattening, but come on. we're talking about comics here. Like,
Yeah, I don't have the money for that, first of
yes,
all. Like what if I like I made my husband do it?
you could
And
force
he
him to.
would he would like, not that I don't think he'd do a bad job, but I just don't trust him like that.
I think it would take
Trust
him
him with
even
my
longer,
life.
probably. Like you'd never put out
Totally.
an episode. It would take you like an entire year.
He'd have a million questions. Like, is
I
this
bet.
right?
Yeah. Does one
He's so
line like,
cute.
"Are you sure?"
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Does it
and
all on the same layer.
yeah. Oh my God. Would you imagine? I would go.
Yeah.
Are you the okay? So like bonus question, but are you the type of artist who has a bazillion layers, or are you organized and have as few as possible?
I have a bazillion layers. So, and I don't label all of them either.
Hmm.
I label them in the way that makes sense to me, so it might seem organized to one person and
Yeah.
like a nightmare to another. I feel like I'm somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
Because it kind of depends on like what the scene needs, but like if there's like two characters, they each get their own flats, they each
Hmm.
get their own shadows, all of it. Like, but there are times when they're like grouped together from far away or medium away,
Yeah.
and I will put them all on the same layer just to save time. It just kind
Hmm.
of depends. I think I'm medium. I think I'm somewhere in the middle.
Nice.
I think I
Well,
have a
I was actually,
reasonable.
this is kind of like part of the same question, I guess, but I was wondering, like, are you the type of artist who follows a very organized path of creating every episode,
Oh,
or are you disorganized and kind of like just go with the flow and see what happens?
I am so this is like every aspect of my life. I am like stupidly organized about it. I have and I don't, if I have to switch things around, I don't panic. I don't like, it's nothing like that. It's just that I have really profound ADHD in the way that I hyper focus on things, and I have terrible what do they call that when you task management, like where you executive dysfunction. I
Executive
have
dysfunction.
profound executive
Yes.
dysfunction
Yeah.
to the point that like my workaround for it, which has taken years to get to and works for me, is that I have to put everything into lists and then follow those lists and not deviate from them. Otherwise, I will find myself in the next room talking like a baby to my dog. Like, which like we all need breaks, right?
Yes.
But like, or like even worse actually is like I'll like find myself like reorganizing kitchen
Mm.
pantries or like downstairs in the basement like dividing things by type. Like I'm like, why what in my brain made me decide that I like in the middle of flatting this episode that I needed to go do this. So I make lists of everything,
Yeah.
like, so extreme organization.
Do you include
Um,
your breaks in your list? Like, okay.
yes.
Yes.
I
Nice.
do the Pomodoro method where like you work for a amount of time and then you like set a thing on your phone and then you take a break for 10 minutes or 15 minutes or whatever. For me, it's like 5 to 10 minutes is like the sweet spot.
Yeah.
But I have to do the same task until I'm done. Like if I try to do two tasks at the same time, it doesn't work. So like I'm like, you know, thumbnails, storyboard, rough lines, final lines, flats, shadows, backgrounds, whatever, bubbles, and
Yeah.
then done. Like I have to do the same thing every
Yeah,
time.
yeah. Oh wow. Well, I
I
mean that works for a lot of people, honestly.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes.
Yes.
It's not
Because there's like
something wacky like, I don't know. Like I know some people who will work on several episodes at the same time, which is like insane to me.
I
Insane.
I would die. I think I'd die. Like I'd be like, where am I saving this?
Yeah.
Which is this point 19 or point 20? Like I
Yes.
would be
And
dead.
like added to that, like they don't follow a specific like path. So maybe like one episode is flatted and then one episode is drafted and then the other episode is like something and I don't know. I it just thinking about it makes me want to puke.
Same. I'm like having an existential crisis thinking about it.
Yes. Knowing that there are people out there is disturbing.
Like you guys are on something different. That's
Yes.
cool. But I one at a time. The fact that you do two comics, like two different
Yes.
comics, is even insane to me because I cannot. I can barely even like keep up with like social media like trying
Yeah.
to advertise.
Oh, I hate social media so much. Like that's
Ah.
no secret. But I do follow like something similar to you, where like at the beginning of the week I'll work on a one comic specifically, and then the second half of the week I'll work on the other
Oh,
comic. So it's
that makes
divided.
sense.
Yeah, I can't work with both at the same time
That
because
makes sense.
I would, yeah, it would just be too painful.
Yeah, I'd die.
And well, now moving away from the process of making comics, do you have any inspirations that you can pinpoint where when it comes to your work specifically?
Oh yeah. So as a kid, obviously we watched a lot of the same things, especially in the West, but particularly I loved Don Bluth, who did Titan AE and my favorite, my gay ass liked Thumbelina a lot.
Oh my God,
Loved
Thumbelina.
Thumbelina.
That
Thumbelina
movie
has a lot of
is so
really bad
weird.
racial stereotypes in it,
Yes.
first of all, which like I rewatched it as a 20 something and I was like, because I'm 32, so like early college, and I was like, how did that go over my head? Like that was
Yes.
awful. But I wasn't thinking about that as a child. What I was thinking
Of
about was
course.
like the fact that like there was a fucking fairy prince, and also like the animation was gorgeous, and a lot of his
Yes.
animation is just beautiful. Anastasia as well
Oh
is
my
like
God.
Anastasia slaps.
Anastasia is like top tier movie. It's so good.
Eh,
It's
like
so
the
good.
way that their hair moves,
I
the way
know.
that like their
Oh my God.
emotions looked, and it was different from Disney, and I could
Yes.
smell it. Like I could sense
Yes.
like, and like I like some Disney movies. I like Lion King, and I liked Aladdin, also a racial stereotype. Um, I was like, but like, and Lilo and Stitch is also an awesome movie,
Yes.
which actually has good representation in it. One of the only ones they did right. And they, but those felt different still
Yeah.
from Don Bluth's movies. That, oh man, there's just like something so great about, even, and it's because I think they rotoscoped some stuff where they would like draw over
Yeah.
people,
It
and I
looked
mean
very
Disney does that
fluid.
too.
Super
Yeah.
fluid. And for me as a kid, like I would look at those movies and I felt like there was something eerie about them, which
Yes.
felt dark and scary, but at the same time really intrigued me. And I was like, I want to see this. This feels like I shouldn't be watching it.
Yeah, there was an edge of danger in all
Yes.
of them that was. Actually, I think my theory is that it didn't pander to children, like it didn't soften the blows of things being scary, right? Like it
Yes.
felt like they were allowed to be scary. Like they were
Yeah.
like, no, Rasputin's terrifying.
Oh my, but so
Like
funny.
he's a necromancer.
Yes.
Like that's horrible. He wants
Yes.
people's souls. Like that's cool. Like whereas like there would never be a necromancer in
Yeah.
any Disney movie. That's
Would you
fucked up.
imagine? And then they're like
Yeah.
Thumbelina, there's a kidnapping, just like casually, you know?
He like seriously gets kidnapped and then
Yes.
lost, and then they try to kill the prince. Like they straight up try to kill him.
I
Like they're
know.
like we're gonna freeze this fucker to death. That's
I
scary.
love to
Like
know that these are your inspirations. Like
yeah.
I can see them now, but if you hadn't told me, I would have never guessed.
Oh my God, yeah. Those because they're like, girly, but like whatever. Anastasia kicked ass. She was a
Yes.
great protagonist. Ain't nothing girly about that. She punched people in the face. That was
She's
another
the
thing.
best.
The way that she acted was so different than a lot, because she felt older and more mature than the Disney princesses. Even the
Yeah,
ones that do kick ass, she felt, I don't know, she had some edges to her that I really liked as a kid.
for sure. And
Uh
even like her motivation, it wasn't like I want to be a princess. It was like I want to see my family. Like I want to belong to a
yeah.
family. It like felt real, you know, not just
Yeah,
whatever, superficial.
her impetus was not like I want a happily ever after. It was, yeah, you're like you said. I also love the Iron Giant and Atlantis as a kid.
Oh
Like
my
those were my
God.
favorites.
Amazing
So
movies as well.
yeah, I love those. But later when I was actually like studying art, I was really into Art Nouveau and Art Deco, like a lot of illustrators are. The Dutch masters, and then Golden Age fairy tale illustrations because I love fairies.
Yes.
So like Kay Nielsen is my favorite. His are really weird. His fairy tales have that edge of danger to them that a lot of the other ones don't have.
There's a
But I like
theme
the other
here.
ones. Yeah, like his were
Yeah.
really dark and strange and like really skewed Art Nouveau.
Mm.
Or I'm sorry, no, yeah, Art Nouveau. Whereas like other people's were like a little more like Victorian, pre-Raphaelite, like very beautiful golden, warm
Whimsical.
colors. Yeah,
Yes.
whimsy. Whereas Kay Nielsen's were like these really strange, like he always like had them like straight on as well. He never moved the camera much, and there was a lot of black like danger in the background, and like
Yeah.
things were at night, and it was I just really like his. But yeah, so when I really started like being like, what do I want to emulate? Those were the illustrations I really were drawn to, and of course JD Leyendecker that everybody loves for a
Yeah.
reason.
I mean,
Like
he must have like made a contract with the devil to be able to
I
draw
think
like
so.
that. Like for real.
Yeah,
There's no other explanation.
yeah, gorgeous. Alphonse Mucha.
I don't know that artist actually.
He is like one of like perhaps like the most famous Art Nouveau illustrator, so you've probably seen his
Oh,
work.
but I just don't know the name.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
when if you see it, you'll know. He did primarily. I can't recall him drawing a single man, but I'm sure he did at some point. But what he primarily did was like advertisements. But the of these like beautiful women with long
Yeah.
swirling hair around their bodies and stuff, and like they were just so cool looking. And I remember the first time I saw one was on a blanket at the mall,
Oh my
and
God.
I was like, "What is that?" I like that. And I learned later who the artist was, and I was like, oh, okay.
Nice.
It was like
It's
one of those places that sells like tapestries and stuff.
Oh my God, that's like one of the most terrifying things I think about when I think about being successful as an artist. Like, I think about Frida Kahlo and how she was supposed to be
God.
like a socialist, anti-capitalist, and like everything that is
They
being
put her
sold,
work on
everything. I'm just like, I would be
for
like,
girl bosses who
oh my
she would
God,
hate.
I
She
would
would
just,
hate the girl bosses. Like,
yes. Oh my God, it would just
sorry,
destroy her.
Frida. Yeah.
So the fact that you saw it on a blanket is just,
He was
oh my
making his
God.
work for a lot of commercial stuff. He was
Mm,
not like Frida, like where
yeah.
he was like, I'm a freedom fighter. Like he was more like, I'm making like one of his most famous works is like the Absinthe Girl. Like there's he made a very famous absinthe label
Yeah.
for a bottle. Like
Oh,
that.
that makes sense. I mean,
Yeah, like he would be fine with that.
yeah,
He'd be more
probably.
pissed, I think, that maybe like his family or his state isn't getting that
Yes,
money, which like
probably.
fair, but like
Yes. But
his
it
work is
being on a
now in Creative
blanket,
Commons.
not so
Yeah,
much. Yeah, got it.
yeah,
And
totally.
well, because this is a place of support, I always love to ask the people that come to the podcast uh, about other comics or artists that they follow, that they like, but feel that they don't get the attention that they deserve. So, can you share with us some of those artists that for you don't get enough attention?
Yeah, so a couple of these like have some followers, but I just think that they deserve more. Um, First one is actually I know her in real life, so I'm gonna plug her real fast. Her name is Millie, and I'll send you these usernames so that
Yes.
people so you can display them. But on Instagram, her name is Millie Scarlett, and she does illustrations and makeup. Like she's a makeup artist,
Oh, nice.
and she is so cool. She would kill me if I name dropped her on a podcast. But she's like she's super goth and like has really unique, awesome style. And I just love her work so much. And whenever she also is a fabrics artist, like a fiber artist. So she
Oh, wow.
knits and she like modifies clothing, and she's just all
Super
around so talented.
multi-talented. Yeah.
Yeah, and I whenever she posts, it's just so cool. I just love her art so much. And then another one, this person has a fair amount of followers on Instagram, but her name is Lehua Uakea, and they are a tapa artist. And So what that means is that they are a pattern keeper, a Hawaiian pattern keeper, and they use natural pigments to make
Oh,
gorgeous
that's
art
amazing.
and installations and stuff.
Yeah.
And I just think that they're amazing. They're native Hawaiian and Japanese, and their work is just gorgeous. And then final one, which is webcomic one. Their username, I think, on Twitter and on Webtoon is Black Moth Eyes, and their webcomic is called Alien Heart, and the art is stupid good, and they do not have enough subscribers. They have like 3,000 subscribers or something like
Oh
that
my
on
God.
Webtoon, but their work is like publishable level good. And I'm pretty sure they have been published before, but
Yeah.
I just think that they need more like and
Followers.
they're it's also like I think it's girl love. I think it's gay too. Like but the romance isn't like the main part. It's like it's set in space and there's like a mystery happening and like it's really great. So yeah,
Those are
love all them.
love it. Love
Yeah.
that it was super varied too. Because usually people will plug like comics, but you just did like the whole range.
Yeah, I wanted to. I was like, I gotta do
Yeah.
like, because like my inspiration comes from a lot of different sources. It's not just comics. Like,
Yeah.
you know, this Tapa artist that's like making all these gorgeous decisions in like what colors they use, how they arrange their patterns, etc. I just like looking at it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then like Millie is like, you know, I don't do makeup, I don't even wear makeup, but I love looking at her makeup and I
Yeah.
love the decisions that she makes because she'll like glue shit to her face and
Oh my God.
stuff.
Like
It's really
prosthetics or
cool.
just like
Um,
ornaments?
more like ornamentation, so like plastic butterflies or like pearls and stuff, which I know a lot of makeup artists do, but I like the
Yeah.
way she does it in particular.
I
So,
love that. I mean, we are constantly getting inspiration from all sorts of places. So it would be silly
yeah.
to be like just comics because that's not the real world. That's not what feeds us that
No,
creativity
let all of
sometimes.
it
Yeah,
enter your brain and then shake around a little bit and then hopefully
exactly.
spit back out as more art. So,
I've had some people who like are also talking about how their biggest inspiration is music. So I'm gonna
mm.
do an extra question or two. First off is if you could have any artist do the soundtrack for Inheritance, who would you like that to be?
Oh, fuck. He would never, ever, ever agree to do it, because he's never done anything like it before. But I would beg Robin Pecknell to do it from Fleet Foxes. The he is like the the mastermind behind Fleet Foxes. I would beg him and I would ask him to collaborate with like Hosier probably. Like because
Nice.
that they're very like rooted in folk music,
Yes.
both of them, and like Hosier is obviously like Irish folk, and Robin is much more varied, but like mostly American folk
Folk.
music.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I can
that's
see
who I would.
folk working for your comic for sure as the
Yeah.
backdrop with
In
music.
my head though, Inheritance has a lot of different because I obviously we all love to make soundtracks to our work
Of
when we think
course.
about it.
Yes.
And there would be a lot of like obviously there would be like folk music, but there would also be like classic rock and roll and doo-wop because like there's a whole aesthetic going on with Ro that's like that.
Yes.
There would also be like hopefully like traditional like European music and also traditional Hawaiian music. It like
Yeah.
so there would be a lot like it would run the gamut of
I love that. I
like
mean,
of the themes that are in it obviously.
I love that.
And
And the other musical question is, what do you listen to when you're drawing, music-wise?
um well, a lot of those things that I just mentioned, because I like a lot of different types of music. I really like my favorite musical artist, by the way, is Sam Cooke, who is soul and um, you know, pretty classic, like borderline Motown. But I have been listening through the Rolling Stone Top 500
Oh, really?
album list, yeah, in order to like expand my horizons right now, and that has been a fucking trip, by the way.
Nice.
Like listening to Daddy Yankee, like
Oh
a
my God.
mere album away from like SZA and like I don't know, it was someone, it was and Selena.
Oh my God.
was
How is
like
Daddy Yankee in the Rolling Stones top 500? I don't
honest.
understand.
I mean it was. I mean, Gasolina is a bop.
Oh God.
So when that came on, I was like, okay, I get it. But like, yeah, I was like, and in his defense, not defense, it's like really low on the list. But he outstripped fucking Selena, and I was like, this is not how I would put
Yeah.
this. She would
No.
be way higher on this list. She would be in like the 100s on this list for
Jeez.
me. But that's why it's
Yeah.
like because they have a lot of people, but it's also like, uh, in the
Music is
past,
so subjective.
it's
So like,
so subjective. Like I don't like Sheryl Crow, but
hmm
I like her better than Daddy Yankee, you
yeah,
know.
for sure.
Nothing against him, but like Sheryl Crow is like mom rock and not my thing. So I've been forcing myself basically to eat my vegetables, right?
Yeah.
And like listen to these albums that I've never listened to before or have. Like there's a bunch on there that I've heard, like Control by SZA used to be on repeat. Like I love
Yeah.
that album. So but like yeah, that's been lately that's what I've been listening to and it's been really fun because then I have this whole Word document or sorry, Excel spreadsheet where I'm rating them and talking
Oh,
about what I liked about them.
yeah.
Because I'm a freak.
That is
So
so very organized of you, and I love that. Like, just
Uh, like I said, like I have so many lists of things that I
oh my
like
God.
generally just don't even share with people. I just am
Yeah.
like doing it for myself.
Yeah, it's
I
just
hope
for you.
someday if I ever get like a lot of notoriety, if I ever become very successful to the point that like people want to know this shit about me,
Hmm.
archivists are gonna be like, "Oh man, this guy has all of this stuff that we can just
This is perfect. This is what we need.
wow, thank God. He took so many notes about himself.
The documentary about you is going to be so easy to produce.
So easy.
Well,
God.
and on that subject, I want you to tell us a little bit about what kind of advice you would give to people who want to be artists themselves, who want to make comics, who are just beginning this journey.
Um, so I have like there's a lot of advice that it's great and out there. So I try to like think about advice that is a little more off the beaten path. And one thing that I think a lot like is like I see like a lot of artist threads or like articles or whatever about advice, and something that I think that gets overlooked a lot is being really, really, really obsessed with the thing that you're doing. And like you want to break into comics and you're like, I kind of like superheroes. I guess I could write like a super or like I'm writing, I want to write this like hard hitting like drama graphic novel because I think that I want to win an award for it. None of that's all shitty. Those are shitty reasons to do art. The
Yeah.
reason you should want to do something is because you cannot get it out of your head and it's driving you insane. Like I've got this idea, even if it's stupid, that out first and it might not be as stupid the second or third time that you do it. But that being said, that brings me to another piece of advice that I think gets overlooked a lot is that being realistic about the thing that you're obsessed with. Like being realistic about who your audience is and how many people are gonna fucking like it. My audience is more limited than if my two main characters were heterosexual. That's just reality. I'm going to come up against people who do not want to read it because it's two men kissing, because it's two men who aren't white. Even you have to
Yeah.
take the racists into account.
God.
Against people who don't care about modern, who only want to read fantasy or who only want to read sci-fi, and then beyond that, you also have to be realistic about what it looks like. Are you good enough? Is this high quality enough to have this many followers? Or how much work do I need to put into? Do I need to front load in order to get to the point to be as successful as I want to be? That's really hard because we want to be good at stuff, and when whatever level we're at, it's really hard to be realistic about like how good am I actually? Like,
Yeah.
would I read this if I didn't make it
Yeah, self-assessing is
myself?
so hard sometimes when
It
it comes to
hurts
making
too.
comics. Yes.
Oh yeah, and it hurts. It hurts really badly
Yeah.
to be, and it's frustrating to like look back and be like, oh wow, like yeah, even though I really care about this thing and I've put my full ass into it, my full ass still needs some
Yeah,
practice.
exactly.
That
Like
sucks. And
accepting that hurts.
yeah, but you can get over it. It's just going to take practice. Like that's the thing
Yes.
that like when people are like practice, 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 they don't talk about that part where it's like the practice is making you palatable to your audience that you are trying to reach, who are used to seeing high quality work at this point. Like if you're borderline stick figures right now, like people are probably, unless they're really, really cool stick figures, people are probably not going to read your work. And also, like, you know, if your work is also that, like, your OC is a furry, which is nothing against furries, that your OC is a furry and they have rainbow hair and they have this and that, like, there's a very limited audience that, like, you aren't going to get 1 million followers for that.
Of course.
But you might get like 5,000 if, especially if your work is really, really good.
Yeah. I mean, and if you're furry, they're gonna be really loyal fans. Let's
They
just be
are
real
like
about
just
it.
knowing that
Yeah.
reality
Yes.
about the people like that you are like you have a built-in audience who are going to cheer for you. That is awesome.
Yeah.
But normies aren't going to read your work.
Yeah, that's
Like,
just the way it goes, with
yeah,
stuff like that for sure. And I
yeah,
feel like it all goes full circle here because since you're a kid, you've known what your audience is, and
yeah,
you've always been all or nothing, which is exactly what your advice is. So I love that you're
yeah,
saying that because it's very true.
yeah, totally. Oh, my advice that I thought of earlier that I wanted to add here though is that if you want to get better at writing, which is a huge problem that I see with a lot of comics, sorry everybody, is that people are like, I want to make a comic, but they've never practiced writing ever. Is
Yeah.
first of all, practice writing stories. And second of all, if you want to get better at dialogue, read scripts. There are so many scripts at your local library. Read plays, lots of plays.
Yes.
Plays are awesome and they will teach you the way that dialogue works because they're only dialogue. There's nothing else in them except for like stage directions, like, oh, you know, so and so
Right
walked
here.
from left to
Yeah.
right. Yeah,
Exactly.
someone who's a master at dialogue, like that just comes off the top of my head, whose works are everywhere and are online for free mostly, is Tennessee Williams. Tennessee Williams is like a master playwright from the mid-century. He wrote Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, Streetcar Named Desire. He was gay. He was really, really good.
Yeah.
And and like, yeah, I just can't recommend it enough just to read a lot of plays. It will help.
Yeah, I think it's super important. There's, that's the thing with comics. There's that element of writing. You have to be a writer and you have to be an artist.
Yeah,
You can't do
unfortunately.
one well and the other one not so well because no matter how good your style is, if at the end of the day the story is kind of poo-poo.
Sorry, like it's hard. Like,
Yes.
and I mean, I feel like I got lucked out because I practiced both, and this is from practice. I'm not saying that I'm preternaturally talented. I have been practicing for a long time, but that's why writers like BFFs, like writers and drawers, get together.
Yes, exactly.
And if you notice, a lot of them are like they actually are best friends, like in real life, so they don't have to pay each other, and they're writing and drawing this thing together.
Yes,
Like it sucks to try to have to find a writer
it
and try to
does.
pay them,
It
or
does.
vice versa. You know, if you
I
can find a
agree.
friend, especially at the beginning before like you have an income from this or
Yes.
from anything else, find a friend who's
Find
good
a
at the
friend
thing that you're
early.
not. Yeah, find a friend early who's talented at something.
Yeah.
Sneak
Forget
it
about
on
being
Bumble.
popular in school. Find yourself a writer as early as you can.
Yeah, I'm trying to seduce you so that you'll work with
Oh,
me.
me?
No, 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 just
Oh,
like
I
in
was like,
general. Oh
he's
no, but
trying
you
to
too, I
seduce me.
guess. Put that one in the books for
Nice. All
the
right.
future one.
I'll write it down. I'll be like, you said this. Now
Sam
you stay
said,
true to your word.
hell yeah.
Yeah. Well, tell me a little bit about what your plans are for the future as well, because I am very excited to know where you're heading.
Uh, it's really hard to see beyond like getting Inheritance finished, but I did write some things down. I would really like to, uh, in the future, I guess, like return to that world that I was starting to build on Mars.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily to like put the same people into it, but I put a lot of research into it. Like I spent a long time like figuring out like what a terraformed Mars would look like and like how the social structures might work and stuff. So I kind of want to return to that and
Yeah.
maybe either write or make a graphic novel out of that and do a space opera
That
at
would
some point.
be
But that's
really
like,
interesting to see. Like I don't know, like I associate you so much with like fairy tale romance.
yeah,
So
I know.
I am
It's
so
so funny.
curious about that other side of your writing and like how that would look like.
It's
But
so wild because, like, yeah, a lot of my new art friends that I've met, like, are exactly that. They're seeing like me push this narrative that I'm
mhm.
doing really hard because I want people to be into it. But like, yeah, there's this whole other side of me that's like, Star Trek takes up a huge portion of my brain that I don't even talk about with you guys.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, yeah, there are spaceships in here, okay,
You're like,
but yeah,
"Hello everyone."
yeah, like I
I love that.
love Spock.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm not
yeah,
surprised at all.
no,
No.
Ro is like half ripped off from Spock.
Nice.
Actually, yeah, I know it doesn't seem like it, but like the like stoic,
Stoic, yeah.
like very kind, actually,
Yeah.
like because Spock's like whole thing is that he's like very like doesn't react, but he is full of love.
Well, that's the interesting thing, right? He's not supposed to necessarily have any emotions, but he does, and
Yeah,
that just makes him way more special.
yeah, it's so sweet. I love that. Other than that, yeah, I want to do. Because I don't really have like another like graphic novel or anything like that in mind. My like future ideas are like, I want to make more. I have like a million AUs that River and wrote my characters are in, and I
Hmm.
would like to draw those because they're really funny. Some of
Yeah.
them, and some of them are just cool. I actually have a cyberpunk one that's completely written
Oh my God.
that would be really cool to like make into like a one-off, but like so like I guess like the Inheritance cinematic
I
universe
love
is what I'm
that.
talking about because there's a lot. Because I that's actually this kind of ties into advice a little bit, but this is a long project. So in order to keep myself from getting bored of it,
Hmm.
I do this like I'm like I'm gonna put these Barbies into another context and
Yes.
like and another one and make up these like little stories that like I don't tell anybody because
Yeah.
I'm bored, just to keep myself from going insane.
It's
It's
instead
hard to
of
work on
like
the same.
it's really hard. It's like it's a marathon. Making
Yeah,
comics is a marathon for real. Like there's
yeah,
no way to have any shortcuts with it. You just have to run the marathon and get to the
yeah.
finish line. But
Facts.
I love that you instead of having friends to order around and boss around and tell them what to do, now you have your characters so you boss around and you move them like doll. That's
Literally, yes, because I like
literally what
don't
you're
want
doing.
I don't want to boss around anybody else anymore. Actually,
Yes.
one of so this is an anecdote. Sorry to put this on the end here. You could cut this out, I guess,
No,
if you
no,
don't
give
want to
us the
include it.
anecdotes. I'm sure everybody wants to know about this.
One of my favorite thank you. One of my favorite things that I did in college was like sort of like this senior capstone project that I decided to do myself. It wasn't even a senior capstone project. I just thought it would be cool. I didn't get a grade for it. I just made it up myself. So what I was in not only was I a performance major, but I was also in improv. So I had in our improv troupe, we call it a troupe. It was just like a club, basically,
Hmm.
had a lot of people in it. Either people interested in joining or like in the actual team on our improv team. At one point we almost had enough people to have two teams, which we never did, but we should have.
Oh my God.
There was like 20 people like who could have been on like the elite 10 on the elite team and 10 on the junior varsity team, let's say, like the less accomplished, the younger ones, people who are
Hmm.
still learning.
Yeah.
So I had this, and not only that, but then like the wider theater department, which wasn't very large at my school, but still. I decided I wanted to do a Romeo and Juliet retelling, the actual Shakespeare play, but put improv into it. Sort of like there's a group in Chicago, in the Chicago improv scene, that does an improvised Shakespeare, but theirs is different because they actually improvise all of the Shakespearean lines and like make them do rhyming couplets and stuff, which is
Oh
really
my
difficult.
God.
Ours, I modified it so that we were using actual snippets of the text, and we told the entire story of Romeo and Juliet. But I would put in parentheses in the spots where I wanted them to improvise what they would be doing, and each time we had rehearsal, they would do whatever they wanted. They knew the general direction that they
Yeah.
had to go, but they could say whatever they wanted to get there. And then we put it on and made money from it at like a local bar. We like put on the show.
Yeah.
And I was the director. I wasn't in it. And
That
that was
sounds
my favorite
so
thing that I've
fun.
ever done.
Dude, that
Like
sounds so fun.
I got to boss everybody around, but like with years of experience, I was
Yeah.
much nicer about it. You know what I mean? Like I wasn't a little kid being like, "Now you do this and you say that." It was more
Yes.
like, "Okay, we need this to happen, so how can we collaborate?" Like it was so fun to be a director.
That is
So
so
if I
fun.
wasn't doing this, that's what I would do. I would want to be a director, either in movies or fucking I don't know, like to do improv because like
Yeah.
plays suck.
Well, you never know where your comic can go. What if there's like a
That's
live
true.
action show of this? You know, you
Uh, Everyone wants a live action show of their
right?
webtoon.
Or at least a movie, you know?
Oh my God,
Anything.
it would be so fun.
It
I
would
keep
be.
telling my friends like if I get on HBO Max, I'm just kidding.
Well, finally, my favorite question of them all. If you could have any magical power to help you in your artistic journey, what would you like that to be?
Um, so I know, like my easy answer is like it just to have it done, but that's cheating. So
Yes.
my actual one is there's one thing that's in particular right now giving me a lot of trouble, and it's paneling and pacing. I'm really new to making comics, and I know how to draw really well, and I know how to write. So what is difficult for me is like this new medium. This is a new medium for me. Is that I struggle with paneling, and I would love to shorten the process by like fast forwarding that part of my skill set because it's just practice,
Yeah.
so that I'm better at it right now. I don't want to go through all of the pains, the growing pains that have to
Learning.
happen for me to get better at it.
Yes.
That's all. Like, because everything else, like, I'm like, I feel confident about. Like, I still have tons to learn. I'm not perfect at anything. I'm not even like masterful at anything. But I'm at a point with the rest of my skills that I'm like pretty happy with them. But that sucks.
Dude, you say that, but
Paneling.
like literally every panel of yours is rendered and it's disgusting.
It's disgusting. I'm working on bringing that back a little bit so that I'm not rendering
No, I love
everything
it.
because it's
Like,
taking too long. But yeah, I just want to be able to, because like some of for our friends and peers just panel things in such a way that I'm like, wow, I could do that, but I'm not. All I'm doing is like plunking a rectangle in there and
yes.
calling it a day, you know? And
Yeah.
there's like this huge like visual part of the visual language that I feel like I'm missing because I'm not like I'm terrified to make something that doesn't make sense, I guess.
Yeah.
Like that doesn't that how do I read this? Or like this is
Right.
distracting rather than immersive. So,
I empathize with that as well so much. I think I struggle with that too. Like I have no idea how to do composition when it comes to paneling.
oh,
It's
that's
really
hard
hard.
too.
Yeah.
I also tend to think in movie, and
Mm.
movie plus like graphic novel or
Yeah.
webcomic is not the same. Like it's
No.
just not. It's more you have to think more illustration
Mm.
rather than actually our friend Jamila, who is another person who deserves more followers, Vampire Pyramid Scheme,
Yes.
recently said to me in a Discord server we were chatting. They were like, try to think of paneling as like stills in a weird art house film, except the art house film actually makes sense. And I was like, whoa, that helped me so much.
Wow.
Like close-ups on
Yeah.
keys, or people like the eyes, or like, there's a door opening over there, or like
Hmm.
voiceover of like the stream is like flowing through. You can put voiceover over shit.
I
I
like
was like,
that.
oh yeah, they're right.
Yeah.
I can't, because like I default to just people all the
Yes.
time.
Yes.
It's so easy and it's boring too if you just do the talking heads all the
Right.
time.
Yeah.
So,
And you have to kind of figure out creative ways to have people follow that conversation without it just being talking heads, and that is
yeah.
the hard thing to do sometimes for sure.
Yeah. Interspersing it with stuff, because it's
Yeah,
so hard to get my brain to like think about that.
for sure.
Like
Yeah.
my brain does dumb things, like the two main characters talking on the street,
Yeah.
and I'm like, what could I close up on while they're
Yeah.
talking? A pigeon. I'm like, that's gonna be distracting, Sam. Everyone's gonna be talking about the pigeon.
Exactly. Maybe it's your brain thinking in like theater format where you're just seeing everything from,
Oh
like
my God, you're right.
from far away, I guess.
A very
It's
fixed,
just that.
yeah, like
Yeah,
you, like, and that's the playing space is like, as an
exactly.
audience member, that's all you see. You don't get to close up on
Yeah.
things.
And you do focus a lot on the set, which is amazing because it's lovely, but
You're right.
it is that a lot of the time. That's so funny. I just realized that.
Yeah, you're so right. You're so wise.
Oh, shut up. That's
You are. That was wise.
Oh my God. Well, you gave us a lot of very wise advice and just very interesting information that I didn't personally know. And I'm so happy that I asked you to come to the podcast and let me like just grab some information from your brain and take
Hell yeah.
it.
My pleasure.
And I just hope that a lot of the people who are watching this go read your comic because it's such a gem. It's a comic that deserves way more attention for sure. And
Thank
yeah,
you.
go read it. Go, immerse yourself in a beautiful fairy tale and a beautiful art style, beautiful writing from a beautiful artist.
That's so pretty.
Well, guys, that was it for today's episode. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you on the next one.